What's up everybody, Shane here from Fugatech 3D Printing, and today we're checking out a laser instead of a 3D printer. Welcome back everybody. So this is the Sculpfun S30 laser cutter, or laser engraver I should probably say. This is a diode laser, this isn't like super duper powerful. It does a few things and we're kind of going to go through what that is, but as someone who is not the greatest with a laser cutter, because I've only ever used one before, or the laser engraver, I keep saying cutter, but with a laser, I've only ever had one before, super duper cheap one from like Banggood years ago that never really got to work well and was super dangerous because like you turned it on and the laser actually turned on at the same time. That's not really good. This thing here though, much better. The features of it, the size of it, and it just was pretty easy to figure out, honestly. So we're going to kind of walk through the features of it, what I was able to cut with it, and if I would recommend this to another beginner, because again, 100% beginner here when it comes to lasers. All right, so a little bit about this laser. It is a 5-watt diode laser. It is boasting a 450 by 500 millimeter cut area or engrave area. It's not entirely true because the laser does not go all the way out from edge to edge. It's pretty close to it, but I would say it's more around 400-ish and around 450-ish, maybe a little less than that, approximately. But either way, it's still a humongous area for a laser engraver because most of them are within about the 300 or they're like, you know, 200 by 300. They're really not that big. They're a little bigger than most standard 3D printer build plates for the under $300 to $400 range, and all come with like a 5 or 10 watt laser. This one's pretty cool with some of the features of it where it has the guard here so that you can't actually put your hand in there while it's cutting, and you also can't see the laser because it is this red, which is the opposite color of the 405 wavelength for this. When it's on, you can't see it, which is great. It also does come with the super El Cheapo stylish giant green glasses. Also wearing these. Can't really see it at all, so it seems to be working for me. I'm not a scientist behind these, but they seem to be working because without it, I can see where it's hitting, and with them I can't, so that's great. So this also comes with a very cool air assist. So it comes with it. Here's the pump. The pump's not the quietest thing in the world, but it does have these very cool vibration dampening feet on it. It pumps out quite a bit of air, so when it's on, it's definitely doing its job. When it's off, it's definitely not. So there's times to use it, times not to use it. But yeah, I mean, it does a very, very good job at moving the air and really does help assisting. It's hooked up directly to the bottom of where the laser's coming out, so the air assist already piped in. I had the old laser that I used years ago. I ended up adding like a 50-15 fan to it. So it was just kind of like always on, where this one is controlled, which is great because when you're cutting, you'll want the air on, and when you're engraving, you want the air off. So there's different ways you could figure out what works for you, and variables of how high to have the laser, how high to have the air assist. So I mean, air assist is either on or off, but the laser, you can adjust that by the speed and the intensity that the laser is outputting, the power it's outputting. But anyways, so yeah, pretty easy to put together. Everything is marked with what it's supposed to be, the X and the Y at least. The controller box comes pre-assembled, which was great. Doing the motors, I mean, this entire X gantry came all together already, motors already attached to everything. So really it was just kind of putting the extrusion together and then attaching the belts and the legs, things like that. So it really wasn't that difficult to put together. I did it kind of over, I don't know, probably like an hour, taking my time kind of recording some of these videos for it too. But, oh, another big thing this thing has is end stops. So the one I had before didn't have end stops, which made it really difficult to use because it just would start wherever you're using it. This one you can actually home it and then tell it to go start doing work and set your workpiece. And honestly, this was super easy to use, and I'm a very big noob with this, but I was able to learn how to use Lightburn with this. I bought it for like, I don't know how much it is. It was like, I don't know, 20 bucks for Lightburn. So you do need to buy software to be able to use this. Lightburn's not free. I don't know if there's any other free ones out there, none that I could find that were decent. but there is a video tutorial actually building this and configuring Lightburn on the Sculpfun YouTube channel, so I'll make sure I link that down below. I just followed all the settings that they had in the video and it just started working. So like, that was really awesome. What also comes in the box, aside from like the USB, power brick, everything you see here, it comes with a laser repair kit, which is pretty cool. So it's got some extra grub screws, some O-rings, tweezers, and an extra lens. So again, this is a diode laser, so it's using a laser diode, but then is focused through a glass lens. So it does give you one extra lens, which is really great. And then in their little toolkit here, there's a brush, some Allen wrenches, a wrench, and a T-handle for really tightening down some of these screws, the bolts, just to make sure everything really does stay nice and tight together. So that was really good to see. That honestly, the extras was my big thing, just because you never really get extras. A lot of things you buy, like you get a 3D printer, you get an end stop. These are the like basic the Creality end stops. They work great, and they do what they're supposed to do, so can't really knock it. It also comes with this aluminum slug, I'm going to call it, and this is your spacer for focusing. The laser I had before, you really had to kind of mess with it and find where that was at. Well, this thing's easy because this slug is exactly how far this laser needs to be from your workpiece. So basically you put your workpiece down, you put down the slug, you lower the laser down until it touches it, you tighten the two thumb screws on the back, pull it away, and you're off to cutting or engraving, whatever it is you end up doing. So I did quite a few different projects. I actually used this for a ton of prototyping. I did some fun little things here that I'll kind of show you, but I actually did a lot of prototyping with this for a few different projects. So I have some cardboard that I was cutting and prototyping with. I cut paper with this. I just laid down the paper, figured out a good speed to cut ratio, and was able to cut out my paper template. Then I upgraded to cutting it out of cardboard, and I am going to eventually start cutting it out of this 3mm plywood that I bought off of Amazon. This is, I forget what type it was. It wasn't expensive, but it was like 10 or 15 sheets for 15 or 20 bucks, but it's 3mm. So it takes 2 to 3 passes to go through this with this guy, running at 100% and going fairly slow. So it's a pretty tedious process. You can see some of the ones I was doing here didn't quite finish all the way, didn't cut all the way through, so I actually had stopped the cut, which again is fine. You know, I was learning, but it was nice to kind of buy some of this to be able to test with and whatnot. Oh, the manual is also pretty good. It was very easy to follow through, kind of walks you through every individual thing, tells you what all of the different bolt sizes should be because you're using different bolts for different parts to put it on, and it labels it all out really nice and easily. So very good manual to follow, actually. Can't really complain. So between this and their video, there's no reason why you can't get this going. I mean, if I can do it, literally anybody can. But yeah, so I also did some prototyping on some, I made these little like cutting boards. So that's kind of a big Etsy thing to do, is you get a cutting board and then you create like your mom or your grandmothers or your grandparents, whoever was your cook in your family, and you kind of get their handwriting, you massage it a little bit in a program. I used Inkscape, and then you go ahead and engrave that onto the little cutting board, and then you have like a little cutting board with your loved one's favorite recipe or your favorite recipe from that person engraved on there, which I thought that was really cool to do. I wanted to do this with the last laser I had, but it really sucked, so I couldn't do it. But I figured out kind of like how to mess with the program with Inkscape and really get this working. And I mean, it even has where my grandmother made a mistake and she scratched it out and then wrote something else there instead. So really cool. It did take me probably a good 2 hours because I'm not good with like designing things to like literally draw over in Inkscape at like 8,000% my grandmother's handwriting in order to make these cohesive lines so that I could engrave them onto this little like test piece that I did. But honestly, super happy with how it came out. Again, I need to learn a little bit about the edges, but a quick sand down, I'll get rid of the burn, and it should look pretty good. So very cool to do that. Some other projects I had made, so I started real simple first. Let's go back a little bit. So I started with just engraving my logo onto a few little pieces here. These came with the kit. So I was able to just kind of engrave these out. A few little pieces of wood came with it. I did a little Pittsburgh sign, so this is actually the same one that I 3D printed a while back. I was able to go ahead and laser cut it, which is pretty cool. I tried making some Scout ornaments. So one, you can see I didn't really cut all the way through on it as I should have, so it had some tear out from the rest of it. The next one came out great. I thought these would be really cool to kind of give my Scouts a little ornament around Christmas time. So I'm kind of testing it, seeing how it works out. I'll buy some more wood later this year and can be able to make that for them, which would be cool. Then I tried doing a box. So there's like, it's called like Maker Box or something like that. Basically, you just put in how big of a box you want, how many like fingers you want on each side, and then you just glue it together and it's done. You've got a little box, which was pretty cool. Again, these all took about 3 cuts at 100% running roughly like 100, 120 millimeters per minute. So that's really slow for those of you who do a lot of 3D printing. Very slow, but it did it without burning, and with the air assist it really keeps any of the fumes down really. So it cut really well. And then after I did all that, I felt pretty confident, did some of the lasering stuff. I went ahead and found this project online for a napkin holder, and this took quite a few tries because I still had to get my settings really dialed in so that I could able to do the cuts well, the engraves well, and then just getting it all really fit together. So with a little bit of glue, I've got a little napkin holder, which is cute and fun, and I made this, which I like it. I didn't design it, but I made this, and it's really cool to be able to do that. It's always been my big thing with 3D printers. I can just 3D print if I need to fix something. But now, being able to prototype and do things with the laser, it just opens up a whole new world of fixing things and making things. So I really am liking this so far. And the last thing I made, which I've seen these on Etsy and things all the time, you see them online, it's the layered ornaments. So basically you cut down each individual layer, you can paint each one, and then you would just glue them all together, and then you've got this 3D image, which is really cool. And I printed something similar to this for Halloween, and it had the multiple layers, had like 4 or 5 layers in there of a different scene, and each one was a different color, and it really made that 3D look, and you could even put a light behind it. But this one, I thought just for a quick little, Christmas ornament, this might be fun to make for the kids, and then I can just laser cut several of them, and then they can paint them and make them for like this year's ornament, because we like to make ornaments, things like that with the kids. So it might be fun, instead of buying a kit, what if I make the kit? I can learn how to design some of this stuff and either find some more online, like this one was free, or make my own. Really, honestly, like, possibilities are kind of endless with it. Yeah, they're a little bit big and clunky, but I've got young kids, and I think they would enjoy painting these and be like, hey, Dad made these, and they could paint them, and then we have ornaments from them. So it's all good, kind of fun with that. Yeah, so a couple things that weren't my favorite of this, because definitely have critiques about it. Cable management, not great. They didn't really give, I don't think they gave all the P-clips that I'm using on this. I end up using some of my own P-clips as well to really manage the cables properly, because I like to be clean. It's nice that they gave you a spool of, or a small roll of Velcro to be able to Velcro and try to cable manage some of it. The tube for the air assist was kinked, and these things sit on shelves for we don't know how long, and they get kinks in the tubing because it's been sitting there for so long. And I definitely had that. So I had some of the old spiral wrap that we used to have on our 3D printers, like way back in the day. Still had some of it, and it's really good at reforming tubing. So I have that on a few key locations, because I actually have the air assist higher than where I had the laser sitting, because the area I have to use isn't as big. So I definitely needed to do that to try and get the kinks out of it, or just to help kind of re-roll out the tubing because it was so crushed down. And by doing that, air assist was way better, because I could hear that it's like not really coming out well, and the motor, the pump here was kind of struggling, and if I would pinch it, it would just go real good. So yeah, it kind of was like learning a little bit with that. It wasn't great, but I was able to figure it out and kind of get everything cable managed, and it works pretty well now that I have that kind of solved. And then for like build plate, there isn't one. It just comes like this, okay? You want to cut on something, so I had this big sheet of aluminum that I took the plastic backing off of it and I made this my underbit because I didn't want to burn the tables and things that I've been using this on, but I needed something underneath of it to help with that. And this doesn't come with like the honeycomb type of like laser table that you can buy. They sell it for this size. It's about 80 bucks, which, I mean, if you look at it, is it the savings of it is great. Like honestly, I've realized that I need to have something to cut on because with the air, if the air assist is on and you have the piece raised, the air just passes through. If the piece is sitting on the ground and you have the air on, it wants to like fly up. And then if you don't have it taped down well, or a little piece could get in the way, and because the laser shield, for safety reasons, is very, very close to the cutting surface or to the surface of your project, it could get stuck and then it moves the piece, or the whole thing like kind of jumps a little bit because it's now floating off the head instead of the 4 feet. Really need to have some kind of cutting table. So I put down this piece of aluminum and I 3D printed these tiny triangles, just enough to get my projects up off the ground, and cutting was way, way better after that. I just kind of had to place them strategically so that when a part would fall, it would just fall through out of the way. And then that way it wouldn't try to come back up into the project area, or into the movement path of the head, I should say. So that worked out really well, actually. So a lot of the big things I was doing, I did that. When I was doing like paper or cardboard, having it taped down wasn't a problem. But if you're going to be cutting any type of wood or anything like that, I definitely would recommend trying to raise your piece off of the off of your like tabletop surface and go from there. You have quite a bit of travel with this head. I would say you probably got a good 50 millimeters of travel, if not 60 millimeters of travel between, do I have a ruler here? I have a ruler here, hang on, let's see what it is. It is exactly 50 millimeters. So you have 50 millimeters of travel height in this. So you can go pretty doggone low, or you can go really high. It really just depends on what you have. But again, having that cutting surface definitely would make this better. This does have the option, I believe, to attach a rotator to it. So if you were going to do any type of like mugs or anything like that, like say you're starting an Etsy shop and you want to start with a diode laser because CO2 lasers are like insanely expensive compared to this, you can get one of those tumblers and be able to do that. But you can do leather, you can obviously do wood, cardboard, paper, cardstock, anything like that. You just have to learn to adjust your settings. And that really is the big thing that this comes down to, is there's a learning curve. If you're not, like, this has a large amount of similarities to what a 3D printer is, which is great. Because I understand the kinematics of it and things like that. I understand homing and whatnot, start point. I get all of that. The software for me was the big learning point in this, and then the tuning of the laser for how fast to go and how high or how low to have my power so that I get a decent engrave or I get a good cut, and then how many passes to go through and do it. So you definitely need to get light burn, sit down, and then just try to figure it out, because it really does take some time to learn. It takes time to learn 3D modeling and slicing in a 3D printer and understanding all the different, parts to it. But there is a lot more danger when it comes to the laser. You want to do it in a well-ventilated space, if not outdoors. This does not have a big enclosure over it. Okay, if you cut certain things, they could be toxic. Like if you're doing plastics, ABS is super toxic. Don't cut plastics with this if you don't know what they are. Look it up online, figure that stuff up, do your research. I did mostly non-toxic, at least I don't think any of this is technically toxic with this, so it was easy for me. Now, can you cut acrylic with this? No, it's a diode laser. It's going to melt the acrylic before it goes through it, and unless it's an absolute opaque, it might cut eventually, but any type of translucent or transparent, the laser just goes straight through it. You need a CO2 laser to be able to cut any type of acrylics or clear things like that. Not going to work out. But overall, I had a lot of fun with this. To be honest, I did have a lot of fun with this. I did not think I was going to, because again, I don't know a whole lot about lasers, but it ended up being really fun to use. My wife actually really liked some of the different things that I made. I showed this to my other scout leaders. They thought the ornaments were really cool to be able to make those. I've 3D printed things for my troop. I mean, why not do some laser stuff? So overall, I definitely enjoyed this product. I believe it's around $350. I'll put an exact price right here so you can kind of see what that is. So this was sent me free of charge from Geek Buying. They're a new company. They're kind of like the Banggood and AliExpress and what was the other one? GearBest, I think, was an old one as well. They seem to be kind of the big one right now. They were willing to send this to me as the first time product to do. I am months overdue for this video because that's just me. I don't do this full time. I do it when I can. I've been cutting with this for the last few months, and it's been, honestly, once I really got the hang of it, I can honestly go get my design, get it in a DXF, import it into Lightburn, set everything up, set my paths, and then hit go on this fairly easily now. So I'm pretty happy with that. But yeah, so if you guys want to pick this up, there'll be an affiliate link down below. If there's a discount code, I'll definitely put that down there with it as well. So again, if you choose to buy this, great. If not, maybe this just gave you a little more information on a diode laser engraver cutter and whether you want to kind of explore this or not. So yeah. All right, well, thank you all for tuning in. If you guys want to support me, there's links down below. But either way, make sure you like the video, subscribe if you want to see some more content from me. I do a lot of live streams, and I'm trying to do more videos as I get time. But you know how things go. So I thank you all for tuning in. Happy printing, happy cutting, and I'll see y'all next time.